Welcome to ISRA League's Grand Touring Championship, brought to you by Z1 SimWheel. The Z1 SimWheel LCD display. It shows you dashboards from all the cars in iRacing, plus timing and scoring information, and is a great addition to any sim rig. Find out more at z1simwheel.com. Well, this is race, I believe it's 6, right? Or is it 5? Race 5, the Great White North 75. And with me here, oh wait, before we get to that, we'll do the points. I always do that. Colin McLean leading Daytona Prototypes with 93 points. Brian Carey in second, 13 points behind. But Chuck Chambliss just 3 points behind Brian. Then a little gap to John Goose in fourth. Kevin Swa in fifth is quite a bit farther behind. Chris Dameron Jr., perfect streak so far. 100 points. Mike Kelly, 22 behind in second. So I think Chris is pretty easily sealing up first place in the championship. Marty Jeffries with 32 points down. And finally, in Cadillacs, we've got a battle for the lead with Ricardo Machuca leading currently with 90 points, but James Cullen just 3 points down. Julio Palacio, a huge 28 points down from Ricardo, so I think that it's pretty much a two-way battle there. Brian, show us the map.
Well, this is my home track here in Bowmanville, Ontario, Mosport International Raceway. As you can see here, quite a very twisting corner. Clayton Corner number 2 is one of the most difficult corners in our series. It's a blind downhill left-hander that is totally unforgiving. You miss that apex, you get your speed wrong, you go off the track by 1 inch. It's a one-way trip to the tire wall. It's a very, very difficult corner. Moss corner there, turn 5 and 5A. As you don't see the 5A there, it's a two-part corner. That's the hairpin there. It's uphill. It's very, very difficult, but very important as it takes you down the long straightaway in the main passing opportunity. All right, as you can see, the qualifying order for the Riley Daytona Prototype, Russell Cow with a 11.2 with Kevin Sawat and 11.3 right beside. Tim Stollig, Dan Gralty, Colin McLean, Mike Kelly, round in the top 6 with Daniel Verness here in the Ford GT taking pole position over Chris Dameron Jr., breaking his dominant streak there. Edward Van Velsen in 3rd, Matthew Voigt 4th, Marty Jeffries, Patrick Spence on row 3, Kenny Coughlin and Paul Schumann row 4, and then Tim McLeish and Clark Reed on row 5.
Then the Cadillacs, Todd Carver took the pole with a 117.6, and a 10th behind was James Cullen. They're both on the front row. Ricardo Machuca and Mark Payne are on row 2. Lauren Bateman, Joe Jr. are on row 3. Dan Morera and Timothy Johnston, row 4. Don Hunter and Luke Poulin, row 5.
Yeah, as we're watching James Cullen here, as we're coming to the line, James in the championship battle there in the Cadillacs. Well, this is that long straightaway here heading down turn 6, I guess, is part of the straightaway, but turn 7 too, it's a heavy braking area. You go uphill, downhill, and really you have to kind of let the car settle. You're going over that crest into the that corner, and then the remaining, the right, left, right, going onto the start-finish straight, each corner becomes progressively tighter too. So it's a short track, not a lot of corners, but very technically challenging. So in all 3 classes. So unfortunately, you're probably going to see a lot of attrition here as small mistakes are punished heavily. And I know last year, I believe, in the LMP class, due to various reasons, we had 1 car make it to the end without any damage. So we'll see how it goes here, as it looks like Russell Cow is taking him to the line, and we're going to go green. A lot of action here as Colin McLean looking to the inside. Probably not a lot of room there, so he's just going to fall in behind Dan Gralty. He's going around the outside of Tim Stahl. And going into turn 2 here, this is going to be, hopefully we can all get through this, because it's a very, very difficult corner. We've got a long race ahead, and DPs at least so far looking pretty good. Back with Chuck Chambliss right behind John Kelly there, and looks like he's right behind the 79 of Kerry there. So Chambliss and Kelly battling for hard going down turn 4. Oh, a little bit over the curbs there into the Moss hairpin, which is turn 5 and 5A.
And it looks like all of the Cadillacs have gotten through turn 2 as well. They're heading down to the same corner complex. James Cullen started up front, and he's still battling. Looks like he lost a couple spots. Going to take the inside. Oh, and there's contact between himself and I believe that is Ryan Huff. Ryan Huff is going to have to wait a long time before he can rejoin, as he has to wait for all these cars to pass by.
That was a pretty bold move by Luke Poulin there in the first lap to try to go on the inside of Ryan Huff, and let's call it what it is, he turfed him out of the way there, so unfortunate. Hopefully Ryan can keep going, but not a good way to start your race.
Yeah, and that is a difficult corner complex, as we talked about earlier, but you know, lap one, we haven't even completed one lap yet. You definitely want to take it a little bit easy. There is plenty of time to make your way past guys if you are indeed faster than them.
Now that is one of the more heavier braking areas on the course, and typically for most courses that we see, a heavy braking area is a really good opportunity to pass. However, the way those corners are situated, it's going downhill through turn 4 and then uphill into turn 5. Unless you're alongside of someone going into the braking zone and have the corner, I mean, it's not somewhere where you're going to be able to outbrake someone successfully a lot of the time, because you're going to have to get through there, you know, single file, essentially. And as you can see what the results of that were, plus you got on the bumps, Luke lost control, and that's what happened. So,
yeah, hopefully, I was going to point out, hopefully at one point we'll get an onboard so you can see just how hard it is for these drivers to actually spot the apexes as they go through 5 and 5A.
Yeah, I was just saying, these Daytona prototypes, and in fact all the classes, really not separating themselves all that much. Pretty close battle so far.
That's going to make it interesting as we get later into the later stages of the race, as it is a fairly tight track, and when the classes start mixing up, especially the Daytona prototypes along with the slower classes, it's going to make things quite interesting.
And our good buddies from last year, Todd Carver and James Cullen, nose to tail again. It's good to see. It hasn't been happening in every race like it did last year in the Ford GT, so good to see those old protagonists battling hard, and hopefully we'll see that continue for the race. And Tim Stahl is off hard. Okay, he missed the wall. I believe that was, it's kind of hard to spot there. I think it was turn 3 as they're going through turn 4 into Moss here. But like I was saying, I mean, a lot of times because of the grass on the edge, very, very slick, and a lot of these corners are off camber, so what that means is when you leave the track, basically the road and then the grass is already slipping away from you as they're going through turn 2 here. As you can see, downhill, and as long as you're in the asphalt, you've got grip, but if you're going off in the grass, you almost accelerate off, and all that's left is really wall. I mean, it looks like you have a lot of room, but the way the wall's angled, the way the ground is, not a lot of room to get around. As Marty Jeffries, he's able to save it, but yeah, I mean, these two incidents there with Tim Stahl and Marty Jeffries just now in the Ford GT, very, very impressive driving, because a lot of the times, like I was saying, you get off the grass, you're heading towards the wall, so very, very lucky for both of them, very skillful for both of them to avoid doing that.
And while we were watching those couple offs, Tim Johnston headed off into the pits and has retired in the Cadillac, so I'm not sure what happened to him.
Yeah, it's because there's so much action happening all down the track, it's really hard to, you know, pick out one thing or not. And there's a championship leader, Colin McLean, sitting behind Anthony Muniz right now, and that's a battle for, actually I can only see down to 10th place in my timing and scoring, so that's at least a little bit.
For 12th, right? For 11th, rather. Yep.
So McLean probably having an off at some point as he qualified near the front. I think he started in 5th place, if I recall it correctly. Which for Colin, that's a uncharacteristic as he leads the division in pole positions at this point. So starting 5th isn't typical for him, and hopefully he can fight his way back. We're watching Kevin Suwa, who also had he was in the front row, but now is dropped back behind Timothy Stahl, and now they're battling for 3rd place. And very high Canadian content in this driver is hailing from Canada, and this is the one Canadian stop on the ISRA schedule. In fact, I believe it's the only Canadian track in iRacing right now, so good to be there. But it looks like Carl Mumbauer. Yep. So John Kelly picks up 12th position there as they're trying to fight back to the field. A lot of open track in front of John, so hopefully they'll catch back there. And now here's Colin McLean battling with Anthony Muniz.
So are you saying Canada has other tracks?
Canada has other tracks?
Yeah.
Yeah,
I'm just kidding.
As we can say, no, Dan's well aware of all the tracks here in Canada, but permanent tracks anyway. Hopefully a few more of those will get scanned. Montreal, where they have the Grand Prix, we're technically not a permanent track. I mean, it's public roads.
This will be a good addition, I think.
Yeah, it'd be a great addition. St. Joe. Oh, Jerry Mooresdorf, he's off. Let's get this is turn 2, so let's see if he's very gingerly
keeping it back. Yeah, that was a very nicely done job there by Jerry.
Yeah, that was one of those rare moments where he wasn't going fast enough to really push his car out, and he kind of fell off the track more towards the middle and later portions of the turn. So that's really where, if you're going to be able to say that that's where, if you go off at the very beginning, if you miss your braking point and you hit the grass, you're going to go off. But he was kind of right at that very edge where he was just able to save it, and that was great driving.
Yeah, basically he'd given up on trying to make that corner pretty early into the corner. So what would happen is he'd started his saving procedure almost by turn-in. I mean, it happens that fast. What happens when you get into that corner and you make a mistake, say on exit or to the apex, like if you miss your apex by, a foot or two at speed, at that point you're already on the limit and there's not a lot you can do and you're basically along for the ride. So heads up by Jerry to notice right away that was going wrong. So Kevin Sawad really battling hard with Tim Stahl, and now we've got Todd Carver off the track. Unfortunately, we'll separate him from James Cullen, so hopefully he can bring his way back up there.
It doesn't look like he did nearly as good a job as his front right is crumpled.
Yeah, I don't think he'll be catching up now, as I see that front right is not in an ideal position. It's a shame because we haven't seen a lot of Todd Carver this season. He's one of the main protagonists in the ISRA GTC last year, and we cut back to Colin McLean all over the back of Anthony Muniz here. Well, James Cullen, as he's taking the inside, you can just see him in the mirror there. We got on board with Ricardo Machuca. Is James Cullen, or no, is that Mark Payne?
Yes, it
that's
is.
Mark Payne. So that's second place Mark Payne, as James Cullen is the leader right now. You can see him just up the road there, but a nice tidy move by Mark Payne to take second place in the Cadillacs.
We'll take a look at Paul Schumann. Yeah, we haven't seen much of him, but right now, I think, hasn't made all the races, but right now he's racing Kenny Coughlin, and that is for the 6th position.
One of the things we like to mention, too, is how, of course, visit israleague.com for more details. But for the GTC, you have 45 permanent slots, so 15 in each car. So those drivers are guaranteed to race each and every week. The main reason for that is certain tracks only have a certain number of pit stalls, so you can only guarantee those many drivers can join. But occasionally you'll have races where some drivers aren't able to make it, or tracks that have more capacity for pit stalls. So we have what's known as fill the grid. And that's actually a really good way for those of you, as we're watching some chaos on the track here. I'll get back to the sign-up procedure in a second as this all sorts out, because we have Daytona prototypes, Cadillacs, and Fords all mixed in together. And I mean, this is a tight track, and this is a tough one, as it looks like Dan Giralti and Kevin Sawad are battling pretty hard as they're going around Ryan Huff in that Cadillac. Timothy Stahl is right behind him, and yeah, as Kevin Sawad is going to try to make a pass on Giralti, he's got the GT of Clark Reed up ahead of them, and they both go by. Tim Stahl's going to go by as well. Basically 3 Daytona prototypes all occupying the same piece of track, so let's see how this turns out. Looks like Kevin Sawad has it. We cut away from that, but go back to that if we didn't. Anyways, about the sign-up procedure. For those of you who visit israleague.com and are interested in running, and some of these guys have come in this way, what you do is you sign up for the fill the grid, which means that at a certain period before the race, I don't know what the exact time frame is, typically about half an hour, 40 minutes before the green flag or qualifying should start, if everyone who is supposed to be signed up hasn't signed up, or if there's extra slots, that fill the grid will come out. Drivers who aren't regulars in the series can join. They can't drive the Daytona prototype, unfortunately, but they can drive the Cadillac or the Ford, as Sean Kuzland and Colin McLean just sandwiched the bread in a Steve Clark sandwich there, as another car had spun off as well. So I'll try to get some of this information out, but the action on track is furious right now, as you have Kenny Coughlin and Paul Schumann battling right now. It looks like Paul's taking the position, as he was behind him previously, so I believe he was behind him previously. It's hard to remember. Well, this is extremely entertaining from the commentary point of view, I must say right now.
And it looks like we're going to have a three-way battle here between Chuck Chambliss, Brian Carey, and Carlos Passos. And Passos getting really held up behind that Ford GT. That's going to allow Brian Carey to dive on the inside. He's going to take the position going into turn 1. Will Carlos be able to fight back as they head down towards turn 2? No, Brian Carey is going to solidify his position. That'll move him up one more spot into 5th place.
Yeah, Carlos really got pinched behind that slower car there and was able to get past. Now they're going around John Rizzutos in the 01 Can-Am Crackers racing machine. Did we just lose Chuck Chambliss?
Yeah, he just went wide on turn 3. He just kind of missed his braking point or something.
Yeah, and there's a tire wall that kind of angles itself back into the track. That was turn number 3 heading into turn 4. So hopefully he was able to continue there, because that's another one of those places where small mistakes will cost you very large. And Kenny Colligan fighting back hard. And there's more chaos down there in the Moss hairpin as John Kuzland and Colin McLean, along with don't know the Ford GT there that they're battling with, but this is a very intense battle for
That's your favorite Ford GT there. That's Tim McLeish. I do believe that's a Steamworks.
No, that was too dark a green. And trust me, I know the steam whistle green.
Steam whistle, sorry. There we go. Yeah.
Which is one of those things. Actually, you'll notice on the sides of the track. One of my other favorite beers, being a local Canadian brand, is the Mill Street out of Toronto. Both Steam Whistle is actually, for those of you familiar with Toronto, and actually for most of you, the only thing you know about Toronto is the CN Tower. Steam Whistle is actually brewed right at the base of the CN Tower at the Round Tower, which is an old railway station down there. So, interesting random beer fact. Although this track is sponsored by, its primary beer sponsor is Mill Street Breweries, which is also a local Toronto brewery.
And Kevin Savoy goes wide into 5A, and that's going to allow Tim McLeish. But it looks like there's a bit of contact there between Timothy Stoll, not Tim McLeish, as I said earlier, between Timothy Stoll and Kevin. So looks like there's a bit of damage on Kevin's car. Hopefully that doesn't affect him too much.
No, having had that sort of damage before, I mean, iRacing will... I mean, some of it has its limitations, and damage modeling is one of them, so that's just your standard front-end damage, so it's not going to help him. It'll probably hurt his top speed a little bit, and as long as it hasn't contacted the wheel, shouldn't hamper the handling all that much, but... it looks like Luke Poulin is battling with Ryan Huff again. He's somehow found behind him, and hopefully it doesn't end the same way it did the first time, and as I say that, they've made contact again. So apparently their cars have been, I don't know, there's some sort of a black hole gravity field around them, and they just cannot help make contact with each other right now. So that one was looked like a little bit more 50-50. Looked like Luke had turned it a little bit hard. I don't know, I couldn't see how much space Ryan Huff had on the inside, but looks like they both got through that. And oh no, James Cullen is off, and he had to avoid the spinning.
James Cullen didn't have a choice. That was a...
It looks like Don Hunter had gone
maneuver,
off.
Yeah.
Luckily, he locks the brakes and avoids hitting that tire wall. That's going to cost him quite a bit of time. He's going to lose quite a bit. He's already in 5th place, and that's going to put him back a good 9 seconds off the leader.
Yeah, put him into 5th. So he's the thing with James Cullen though is it's a long race, and he definitely has the speed since his car's not damaged, so he should be able to get through that no problem. And Kevin Savoy with a slightly damaged front end, and Timothy Stahl with a slightly damaged rear end, or maybe not. No, it looks like it's all right. But they are battling hard for what looks to be 2nd place. Actually, this is a battle for 2nd place, and Dan Gralti is now the leader. I don't know what happened to Russell Cow. He missed his retirement because he is no longer part of this race, or at least no longer battling in the top 10. So we've got a tight 3-way battle for the lead. Is Dan Gralti up there in the Android-sponsored car, ISRA-sponsored car up there in the lead with just the one Ford GT, which I believe is Matthew Boyd. Oh, that's Joe Jr.
Actually doing it to himself. I think he just gets the ball.
Hopefully he's able to get out of that. I don't know if any damage was done previously to that. I didn't see how that all started, but hopefully Joe can keep on going. That's not John Rizzutos, that is Joe Jr.
Yeah, I think that you see this tag that happened before with John Rizzutos, and I think it's having trouble attaching to him. It tries to tell him to switch the camera, so unfortunately not able to watch John Rizzutos at the moment.
Again, our director is an unfeeling cyborg, so such criticism won't hurt his feelings. Hopefully.
Well, if I had to guess, I'd say that they tried to do it in one of those moments where we didn't have data on John, and that's probably what did it.
Actually, I was thinking at some point too, if Dan is up to it, our commentator, who's the brainchild behind this fantastic production that you're watching right now, is Kevin Servois just all over the back of Timothy Stall. But maybe an interesting featurette on how this actually comes to be, because it's a really a fantastic thing. It's, oh man, that is not a corner you should be sliding on, and Kevin was getting a pretty big tank slapper there. So, but yeah, no, it is pretty amazing how this is all put together. I mean, it looks like. I mean, you think, okay, well, we're just using, and that was Chuck Chambliss. Wow, that was massive.
I don't think that was entirely Chuck's fault. I think he came up on a Ford GT there that had already spun, and he just tried to take some routes the action.
Yeah, regardless, that was a heavy hit, and luckily Chuck was able to continue on. The spun car, however, became spun a little bit harder into the tire wall, so whoever that was, I believe, will have to retire, or if they are not retired, go a hell of a lot slower. So, Tim Stall off. He's able to hold on. That's turn one. You're able to actually. That's one of the places where you can go off a little bit by the way the corner goes and be able to save it. But I mean, this pass is going to happen sooner rather than later. It's like Colin's got a few of those little damage holes. Oh, Colin's off. This is turn two, and he's going to hit the turn two wall. Yeah. That's what happens. Colin McLean going a little too hard into the corner, maybe missing his turn in, and it's straight into the tires. He's looked like he's able to run, but that car is grabbing bad.
That's it. Although I have to say, as hits into the turn two wall go, that was fairly light one.
Well, I think the side of his car will say differently, as it is mashed in severely, as you can see there. Scraping home the poor ISRA logo. That's going to be unfortunate. That's going to be a fine from the league admins.
Well, I'm not saying it didn't do pretty heavy damage. I'm just saying he still managed to do a pretty good job reducing the impact.
Yes, we've seen much heavier impacts into that corner in previous races.
Yeah, and actually, and I've done it before, if you want to go onto YouTube and just type in Mosport Turn 2, you can see what happens both in iRacing and in real life, particularly real life. But I don't know if Kevin Slaw is driving a dirt track car right now. He is just flying, but he's going sideways through a lot of these corners here. I guess that's how they drive in Bathurst, but a lot of snow there, so you do a lot of drifting, I guess. But and see how he goes through turn 4, because he slid it through there previously, and not so much there, but we'll see how he manages through this next corner here. Oh, a little bit wide.
Just had to say it.
Nobody's able to keep it going. He is figuratively and literally driving the wheels off that car right now. It's allowed Mike Kelly in the number 2 Turn 1 Heroes car to catch up behind him.
And once again, we just cannot attach to John's car for whatever reason, so keep watching this battle.
I'm just noticing the timing of scoring. We don't have... Oh, there he is. We lost Kevin Servois for a time there, so maybe that was... I think maybe that's what's happened, is when we lose the car that we're focused on, the data on the car, it just says that we're going to John Rizzuto's. Because he is 01, so the first number on our sequence. Oh, Kevin Servois is struggling, perhaps?
Yes, yep. He's definitely off pace. Looks like he's has some sort of suspension damage. You can see the car crabbing and weaving all over, very off pace right now.
Yeah, he's definitely done some additional damage there, and since he's done it to both the front and the back, I'm going to guess he did that in turn 2.
Yeah, I was just thinking the same thing. It looks to be fairly light if it's not the same amount of damage we saw on Colin McLean's car, but you can see it's really affecting the suspension nonetheless. And he is going to try and nurse that car back to the pits and see if he can get some repairs done to get back out on circuit. But with that amount of damage, I'm going to guess it's either going to take so long that it's really not going to be worth fixing. But let's see if he exits the race and retires, or if he'll go and try and get repairs.
It's a nice pit wall they've got there.
And Anthony, I think, knows about this one. I just want to. There's another retirement that I believe just happened.
Yes, we can. If we look at the time minute scoring, we see Brian Carey, who was up around top 5 and performing quite well, has dropped back to 9th. And I think if you go ahead and search on YouTube, there might be a video of his incident.
And Kevin Swad did just exit out. The pit out indicated that he did in fact retire.
So Mosport now starting to take a lot of the top runners in at least the Daytona prototype category. We saw Colin McLean had damage from turn 2 as he went off. We're not sure what happened to Kevin Savoie, but she had damage that indicated he might have went off on turn 2 as well. Oh, and there's a bit of contact between Joe Jr. and Dan Morera. Looks to be fairly light. Both guys continue going, but we did see there was a bit of contact as those guys raced through turns 5 and 5A.
Yeah, Joe was just helping him in the corner there, that's all.
Little bump draft.
Into a hairpin. Yeah, it's Ricardo Machuca there. This is a battle for second place right now. He's got James Cullen right ahead of him. Mark Payne has pulled out to a 9-second lead. Remember, James had that issue earlier where he was avoiding a spinning Don Hunter. And Ricardo is all over him right now. Ricardo Machuca also his home country race anyways. I think he actually hails from the Montreal area, where Mosport is, like I say, Bowmanville, Ontario. That's about an hour and a half northeast of Toronto, which means probably about 4 hours west of Montreal. Depending on what car you drive, then it might be a little bit quicker. We get some Daytona prototypes going inside. That looks like Tim Stahl inside of Ryan Huff, and Ryan Huff's got Luke Poulin still behind him. Mike Kelly following through. This is a battle for second place now, actually. Mike Kelly showing very well in the...
We do not want to be on the outside, but Ryan Huff manages to keep it together.
Yeah, that's... like I say, it's... I don't want to pick too much on any wall.
And then he misses his break point, and there's the wall.
That is not going to be good for his car. Like I said, I don't want to pick on anyone's pass here, but just because there is no good place to pass a slower car here, but you just have to be... The slower cars really do have to be careful and, be able to use their mirrors, because it's a very, very tough track to pass anyways, and you just have to make sure that, one of the fast cars going on the inside of you in a corner that's tough, you need to slow down a lot. So he was able to make it through turn 2, no problem. Unfortunately, turn 3 got him. So the track is very unforgiving, and we're behind now. There's Tim McLeish in the steam whistle car, and I apologize before because I think that may have been him. I seem to remember having him more of a steam whistly green color. That one's looking a little darker than the actual steam whistle is, and it looked like there was the digital prototype with Timothy Stahl right behind Paul Schumann there. Unfortunately, he got a little loose, and Timothy Stahl was not able to get by. Joe Jr., here we go again. Hopefully he doesn't run it. No, he hasn't run into him this time through the Moss hairpin, so that's good. Hope he's going to try to get a good run coming off this corner. It looks like he might be able to do it. So I don't know what he's not using the draft yet. He's going to need to get all the draft he can and see if he can pull him going onto into turn 7. And actually, one of the things about turn 7 here, we'll see, because Dan, he's gone to the inside going to turn 7. Dan's got the outside. However, if Dan's able to keep alongside him, the faster line's actually around the outside, so... Nope, looks like Dan's conceded the place, so... But in a lot of classes, because the way the corner is, you start wide and it kind of tightens as you go through the corner, so you're actually able to go faster into the corner from the outside. If you're pinned down to the inside and you're stuck alongside someone, you can't go the normal speed because you'll wipe wide out to the outside and you end up taking them out. I mean, I guess you could do it, but I mean, it's not exactly the right thing to do, I guess. but a lot of guys, passes can be made surprisingly around the outside of turn 7 there, which doesn't look like possible from the outside, but is actually one of the one of the more possible places to make a pass on someone. As you can see, Paul Schumann there has got a bent right rear wing, which could have happened in any number of incidents that have been happening in this race. I'd actually like to point out too that Tim McLeish hails from, I can't remember the exact town, I'll just double check that, but I do know that he lives less than an hour away from the actual track in Mosport, so truly a home race for Tim McLeish. Just give me a second here, we'll turn it over to Anthony and Dan. I'm going to go take a look at Tim's bio and see if I can place that. Oh no, Paul's spot.
That's too bad. Paul Schumann was having a good race. He had made up a few spots from his qualifying, was looking to make up another one on Tim McLeish, and that's going to cost him quite a bit of time. We're going to jump to the battle between Ricardo Machuca and James Cullen. As you can see, the roles have been reversed since the last time that we've watched this battle. Ricardo Machuca now leads. You can also see Lauren Bateman just behind these guys. He's a little bit farther between the gap between Machuca and Cullen, but he is also catching up and wants to get in on the fight between these. This is the battle for second, third, and fourth in class. These guys have about a 9.2 second lead gap to make up before they can catch Mark Payne, who is currently just turning laps fairly comfortably. We haven't really seen him be challenged for the lead of the Cadillac class.
Now, at the moment, he has a 9-second lead, and Ricardo is very quick, and so is James Cullen, so they could potentially close that gap, but they've got a lot of work to do if they want to do it.
And for Tim there, just check from Beaton, Ontario, which is, pardon my geography, I believe just east of Newmarket, Ontario. For those of you who know the Ontario area, but regardless, Tim's still running well in 6th place right now in the Ford GT. Also, Tim's, as we're speaking about Tim McLeish, I know he's not shown on the screen here, as James Cullen and Ricardo Machuca are having a good battle. But his random fact is he dug up a water pipe for Mick Jagger when Mick Jagger was trying to hide incognito north of Toronto, apparently. So that's pretty random. I thought James, as we're on board with right now, his love of warm apple pie was random, which in all honesty is not random at all, because who doesn't like warm apple pie?
You're going to have to explain that to me. He dug up a water pipe?
Yeah, I imagine that he is a tradesperson of some sort, perhaps plumber, and needed to repair something. Otherwise, he's not just digging up random pipes for people.
I would like to think that that's what he was doing, though.
Okay, but where did the Mick Jagger come in?
Blocked water line. Okay, so basically,
blocked water line. Okay,
yeah,
so
sorry.
that makes perfect sense now. What I heard was Mick Jagger wanted to hide, so I thought he big enough this pipe so Mick Jagger could hide with it. It just didn't really work for me.
Hey, you never know. These superstars are kind of eccentric, so.
Well, that's why it was potentially believable.
Yes, he dug up a water pipe because it was blocked for Mick Jagger, and Mick Jagger apparently had a house north of Toronto that, at the time, used periodically for, well, hiding out, I guess. Probably more luxurious than a pipe.
I'm right with you now. Thanks for clearing that up.
A pipe, however, would probably have hit him from the press and media better, though.
I'm sorry, what was that?
If he had been hiding in a pipe rather than his luxurious house, he probably would have been better hidden from the press and media.
Don't worry, I think he was probably in his luxurious house hiding in a pipe.
But anyways, this conversation has taken a strange turn away as we're looks like we're on board. Is this are we with John Rizzutos now, or is this Joe Moret?
No, we're still with James Cullen. Actually, that is Ricardo Machuca just ahead of him.
Oh, right, yes, of course. So again, not John Rizzutos.
I don't think we've seen John one time so far, but his name keeps appearing.
Yeah, for whatever reason, it just cannot attach to him. He's got a really great battle going with Gilles Moret, he's half a second behind him right now, but unfortunately, for whatever reason, the software is trying to attach to his car, but just can't.
We assure you he does exist. He is racing here. He's doing very well in 8th position right now, chasing down 7th. But, yeah, I bet he was thinking, too, when he was running this race, like, man, I'm having a close battle here. The broadcast has got to show me on TV this time. And, unfortunately, the Cyborg director thinks differently.
Well, the director's totally into it. It's iRacing that's not cooperating.
Well, someone who is not human. We are not purposely slighting John right now. We are definitely getting stuck with the battle here. We'd love to show him on screen right now as he's, he was, according to the screen, he was alongside Gilles. He's less than 0.3 of a second behind right now, between 3 and 4/10. So I assure you that battle is intense, and we'll update you on any position changes that may occur there. Well, actually, this is good. Okay, I think we're going to be on this shot for a little bit here. So, as they're coming off the final turn here, onto the start-finish straight away. Turn 1 is a little bit downhill, and it doesn't take a lot of braking, just a little bit of a lift, maybe downshift. Kind of hug the inside, use as close as you get to that wall there, let the car run up. Now you got to set up for turn 2 here, so you can see it's blind, so you got to start turning it now. Okay, now you can see the track. So you really just got to kind of pick your spot in the wall there as you turn in, and let the car run out wide into turn 2. Entry for turn 3, make sure you brake and get down towards the apex. You ride the apex quite a long ways on the inside there. Let the car slowly come out to the outside. You don't want to come out too much because then there's a wall right there if you touch the grass. Turn 4 is downhill, so you just kind of let the car settle on the front tires. A little bit of a lift. Straighten the car out for the braking for turn 5A, which is the Moss hairpin. Slow down a little bit more for turn 5B, down the hill, and then onto the back straightaway here as we go to turn 6, which is this little kink here. And then up the hill, we're going to power towards turn 7 as one of the, looks like that's Chuck Chambliss going past James there. So we only got a little bit time left, I think, maybe, but we're going up the hill. We're going to head to turn 7. As you go over this crest, you have to let the car settle at the bottom of the hill. Okay, now hit the brakes, down a gear, turn in really early there, and ride the curb on the inside, sticking over to the right-hand side there to set you up for turn 8. Okay, on the inside here again, sticking on the left-hand side for turn 9, the final corner here, down a gear, and through the final corner there, and that's how you run it there. I mean, this is a Cadillac, but I mean, basically the same procedure, just slightly different speeds for all the cars.
And I think we'll be on board here for just about another lap as well. And pretty soon I think we'll see some pit stops going on. We have 41 minutes remaining out of this 75-minute race. So we are about 2 minutes from the halfway
point. James driving very, very smoothly here. He's trying to chase down Ricardo. He's about a second and a half behind, and you can see him just up the road there. But not a lot of tire smoke. Just getting the job done, hitting all his marks, and very actually good to see. I mean, I know it's a programming error. I'd like to see the battle between John and Jill because it looks like it's a really, really intense battle right now. But there's a good chance. You don't get a lot of chance on these broadcasts to see a good long stretch of onboard cameras. So you get a good view of what the track at Mosport is like. And by the way, it's actually no longer Mosport this year. They've changed it to Canadian Tire Motorsports Park, which I'm sorry, that's a terrible name. It's Mosport. It's Mosport. It's just be messing around with names like that.
Meanwhile, we are now with Mike Kelly running in 3rd in Daytona Prototypes, and not too far behind him there is Carlos Passos, and it looks like he's coming up to Timothy Stall.
Yep, okay, so you might see Mike Kelly come along the inside there, coming up into turn 7, and they're going up the up and down the back straightaway here through the woods. Like I said, let's see, Tim, nope, Mike's come over and he's cut in front of him, so it doesn't give Chin the chance to drive around the outside of him. So that's second place, Mike Kelly, 13 and a half seconds behind Dan Gralti, the leaders. So then again, we're looking for John Rizzuto's. So we're going to be on board with Tim Stahl for quite a bit here. John still about half a second behind Gilles Moret, battling hard for that 6th position right now. Actually, you'll get to see how the Daytona prototypes get through a little bit faster here, a little bit more. I mean, you're going down through that, it's essentially off camber. So as you're going over that crest there, what's happening is you've got the wheel pointed basically, well, straight ahead. I mean, you're turning slightly to the left, but the car is sliding heavily to the right. And there's really not a lot you can do because the track is literally falling away from you. Kind of the same thing here, just there's a little bit more grip going through that corner. Even though it's downhill, it's not nearly as treacherous as turn 2 is. But really just kind of have to feel the car, let the car settle as it's going through before you get back on the power too much. Otherwise, where getting hard on the gas will sometimes spin up the rear tires and give you a lot of oversteer. If you hit it wrong, it'll give you a heavy amount of understeer, and that's what takes you off the track.
As we go on the rear view camera of Tim McLeish's Ford GT, you can see that Paul Schumann has managed to catch back up, so it means he's made quite a bit of time up on Tim McLeish, or McLeish has made a mistake of his own, but it's good to see that battle resume. They were having a good scrap earlier on in the race.
And Carlos Paso is having a pretty solid race right now in 4th position. Carlos having an unfortunate season so far, a lot of early retirements and incidents for him, so the fact that we're approaching the halfway point of the race and he's still in contention right now. Actually in 3rd place is Tim Stahl was the first of the Daytona prototypes to blink and make a pit stop. So those pit stops are going to start happening anytime between now and probably the next 15 minutes potentially. Someone like John Kuzlin and Carlos Passos actually tend to run longer in the stints, so we'll see how this all shakes out for them. We're watching Lauren Bateman ride around by himself, kind of. Just about, actually 2 seconds behind James Cullen right now. As Ricardo Machuca is in the pit stop, made a pit stop. So that's pit stops for all classes starting to happen. And Paul Schumann's got ahead of Tim McLeish. We didn't see that happen, or just saw it happen, I should say. So Tim McLeish back down to 6. As you can see right up ahead, there's the Mill Street Brewery sign just going off to your left-hand side there. That red billboard you had there. I go through turn 2 and good view from the outside there. I mean, these cars, I mean, it's really a fantastic road racing track. It's ran Formula 1 back in the 60s. I believe it had the F1 race, the Canadian Grand Prix, up until, I think it's split between Saint Jovite. So Saint Jovite had it in 68 and 70. I think Mosport started in 1966 or 67, and it was a hosted Canadian Grand Prix right up until 1977, where in 1978 it transitioned over to Montreal, where they host it currently. So a lot of great races back in the day, like the Can-Am racers used to race here, Formula 5000. I mean, still currently the Le Mans, American Le Mans series will be here shortly, I believe. You guys follow the series a little closer than I do. I don't know when the actual race is, but I think it's in July.
It's being put it at, like either the 28th or 29th? Oh,
yeah.
Right. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah. Sounds about right. Yeah, like I said, my home track, when I say my home track, I actually have never driven on the big circuit here as such, but on the start-finish straight, as you go to the start-finish straight, there's stands on the left-hand side, and just beyond that is a driver development track where they have the Bridgestone Racing Academy. Great multi-purpose track, as well as where they have the basically the kart track as well, and I ran Rotax Max here back in 2003 at that track. Sadly, the race turned out somewhat unsuccessfully for me on my one and only trip to the track, but as far as racing circuits go, this is the one that permanent road course anyway that's closest to where I live in London, Ontario. And speaking of London, Ontario, Stephen Clark, a London, Ontario native, the 92 here, my fellow Londoner here, is running in 8th place in the Cadillac, battling with Gilles Moret. So if he's battling with Gilles Moret, apparently he could be on screen, but John Rizzuto's actually up into 4th position, and Ono and Steven has gone off the track, luckily not fast enough to cause any damage, and he'll just lose time and not parts of his car. John Kuzlin just very quietly working his way up to 4th position right now. He's about 2 seconds behind Mike Kelly. As you can just see Mike Kelly up there. There's a Matthew Voigt's in between them, as you can see Matthew Voigt right now. So John Kuzlin just, like I say, very quietly, just rattling off the laps, not making any mistakes, and he finds himself in 4th position right now. So,
yeah, unfortunately, the cars that are in front and behind, that being Mike Kelly, and just behind, you can see in the picture there, Timothy Stoll. Both of those drivers have made their pit stops, and Kuzlin has yet to make one, so he'll drop at least one spot to Timothy Stoll once he decides to make that pit stop. But overall, good drive by him. Ooh, and a little, almost an incident there between Danny Gralti, the DP race leader, as I believe that is Stephen Clark in the 92 Can-Am Racing Cadillac pulls into the pits. Good heads up to make sure he didn't lock the brakes and slide into the rear of Stephen.
yeah, it's unfortunate for Dan because it's one of those things where the Cadillac and the Ford GTs will enter those pits a lot slower than the Daytona prototypes. He just got the bad brake and timed his pit stop wrong where he came in behind a Cadillac.
Well, it also looked like Stephen Clark may have gotten onto the pit speed limiter a little bit before he had to, because I think that Gralti had inched up to gain some time.
And Tim Stahl making a very, very decisive pass on John Kuda.
That actually happens most often at Spa. It seems like every time I pit right behind someone, they start the pit speed limiter right as soon as they make the left-hand into the little alley, but the actual pit limit doesn't start until low down that alley.
Yeah, that's what.
Go ahead, Brian.
Sorry, just saying, well, that's one of those things. There's a lot of places in iRacing where this Mosport's a little bit better because you have to slow down for that pit entrance, and I mean, you can accelerate a little bit, but there's not a lot of room before the pit entrance. Oh, that's race over. We cut away from him. I don't know why. Maybe to save the children from the horror of that crash, but he went off hard. And let's see if we can see him. It looks like that's got to be race-ending contact for Mike Kelly. Like there's no way he could drive. There he is, right there, and he is very, very slow. And it looks less damage than I would have thought, but no, it's crabbing. Yeah, no, it's massive damage there. He's not finishing that race.
And if it wasn't before, it is now.
And that was going into the Moss hairpin. What it looked like it happened, and we can get confirmation later if we can, but going into the Moss hairpin, you basically you can go flat out through turn 4, but sometimes it brings you all the way over to the right-hand side of the track. Sometimes you just want a little bit of left to get the tires to settle so you could stick it over the left-hand side so you could brake for the Moss. Looks like Mike went through turn 4 flat out, ended up on the right-hand side. A little bit of a bump there, and it looks like he caught the curb on the inside as well, which basically pitched the car up into the air. When the car is up in the air, obviously the tires can't grip the air. I mean, they're meant to touch asphalt, or asphalt, I apologize. I'm going to start working on saying that properly, otherwise Chuck Chambliss. It's always funny when I get corrected by pronunciation by someone, who hails from Alabama, but that's cool. But I do like Alabama. They're very nice there, especially Chuck. But anyways, the asphalt. But you get locked up in the air, and basically it just pitches you right into the wall.
And this is currently a battle for the lead. Of course, pit stops might come into play here, but this is Matthew Voigt currently leading the Ford GT class. Daniel Burns right on the back of him. He's weaving around the track, seeing if he can't find any room. I don't think he's even remotely close enough to try and make a pass. I'm not sure if he's just probably trying to spot the correct time that he needs to start braking to be able to not run into the back of Voigt. Because he gets through those last corners 9 and 10 better than Matthew Voigt, and he's really gaining on him as they head down the front straight.
That's Daniel Vernass, by the way, as he corrected us earlier in the forums.
Yes, I remember that. I apologize for that, Daniel.
There's Anthony Muniz up ahead of Chuck Chambliss right now. This is a battle for 5th position. Looks like Chuck has made his pit stop. I don't believe Muniz has made his, so we'll see if Chuck, it looks like he's caught him at a pretty high rate of speed. It looks like Muniz has a little bit of damage there. It might be slowing him down.
Actually, that is, I noticed it on another car earlier in the race. If you hit the curbing on turn 6, would cause the model to kind of give a little bit of damage. And I think that's all it is, because if I remember correctly, I don't believe I hit another car. So, and if I did, I apologize, but I don't remember that hitting another car. So I think it's just a little glitch in the modeling system.
Yeah, there's some places. It's a very, very bumpy track, and not in all places, but a lot of the curbs. I shouldn't say bumpy track. There's a lot of compressions on this track. So, going down, going up real quickly, where the suspension loads up pretty heavily, and when the suspension loads up heavily, and then you hit an actual bump, to absorb the bump. So, and I just want to point out, Carlos Passos is the race leader right now, as he has not made his pit stop. We got about 28 minutes left, so actually we should see Carlos into the pit shortly. Dan Gralty and Tim Stahl. We'll see where Carlos works his way back. I'm gonna just looking at the screens here. I'm gonna say probably about
into the
third. Yep, there he is. So he'll probably come out. I'm gonna say about third. Well, actually no, fourth place, because it looks like unless John Kuzlin comes into the pits shortly, Carlos should probably drop back to fourth. But then when Kuzlin comes into the pits himself, Carlos will find himself back in third place. Yep, Dan Gralty retaking the lead. Dan Gralty, another driver that's had a rough go of it so far, so I don't want to jinx him right now, but he's had a few DNFs, and he's been running very, very quickly all season, just hasn't been able to put the results on the board. And it's kind of the same thing with Carlos here too, as he comes out in fourth place. So I am a gap genius right now for being able to correctly pick that, as John Kuzlin just came out ahead of him. And we're back with Tim McLeish here in the steam whistle car. It's still a very sharp-looking machine here, and hopefully Tim was able to work out a sponsorship deal with Steam Whistle and allowing him to get some free beer. And actually, I should point out, in all fairness, when I first introduced to Steam Whistle, one of my friends from college back many, many, many years ago, probably about 11 years ago now, used to work as a tour guide for Steam Whistle. So when he came to college here, he had, I don't know how many coupons he had, but for 12 packs of Steam Whistle, so we drank those for a very, very long time. Like 2 or 3 days. It's Kenny Coughlin in the DuPont sponsored machine. Nice clean paint scheme there. So, again, we always mentioned before, a lot of these some guys we don't see a lot of on track here, a lot of guys we do, but all very, very, very well done cars. As we come up to one of the SRM cars, it looks like that should be Marty Jeffries. Yep, and that's Marty Jeffries, one of the authors of many of the cars here. As Carlos squeezes by, tries to keep it as close as possible. Marty trying to take the middle of the track there and being able to do it, and everyone got through there okay. It's coming through turn 2 there. It's like I say, there's not a lot of places to make a really, really good pass, so sometimes you just gotta make the best of what you got, and I don't think that was one of those cases. But Carlos has got past John Kuzlin, so Carlos is now into a third place, and since Carlos, Tim Stahl, and Dan Gralty, that top 3 battle is set, and Kuzlin is probably going to be coming into the pits, I'm going to guess, about probably this lap here. We'll see here, is going through turn 8. Is he going to enter turn 9, or is he going to enter the pits? Nope, he's going to be going around another lap. So John Kuzlin on a full tank. He's as I mentioned before, the master at getting the most out of a fuel tank will always go longer or as long as everyone else.
And so far he's gone a couple laps longer than anyone else in the prototype class.
No, just looking at the times and basically relative positions. I mean, there's a number of factors that come into play, so it's hard to tell, but some tracks it is beneficial to go as long as possible because the time drop-offs, your lap times don't drop off as much. And if your times don't drop off as much mid-run, then once the fuel starts to burn off, sometimes you can run faster laps on low fuel than you can on fresh tires and a lot of fuel. So maybe you want to run a little bit longer, but other tracks that we've been to, the tire wear is such that it's not beneficial to run longer, and the first laps coming out of a pit stop will be faster than the laps on low fuel, and in which case, if you pit longer, like John is doing, the guys you're battling with who would pit sooner can gap you on the new tires, and you end up bleeding time basically. So it's really hard to kind of figure that out, because unless you can run a full race, you never really know for sure, or a full race with other people, you don't know how other people will run, how the other strategies can work. Really just not enough time to kind of work it all out. It's all about trial and error. So in this case, I mean, right now John's running in fourth place. We'll see how it shakes out after his pit stop, but looks like he'll be no worse than fifth coming out of that. I noticed Luke Poulin in the Cadillac. He had been running the Daytona prototype earlier this year. He was back at Road Atlanta, what car he was in, but decided to relinquish the... that's actually the reason why Mike Kelly is in the Daytona prototype, is because Luke had relinquished his seat and Mike was able to pick that up. So that's basically swap positions. And John Rizzutos is obviously doing something awesome, but we can't see it because they're trying so hard to get him. Yep, no, he's battling Gilles Moret again.
Yep. And again, after pit stops, it's back to about, nothing to 0.3 seconds. Right now it's nothing, so they're battling very, very, very hard, getting side by side and whatnot. And
just really surprised John hasn't been able to make a pass up to this one. Oh, he looks like he's dropped back 2 seconds behind Gilles Moret, so I'm not going to try to grab him, but he'll probably pull right back up. Just go 2.5. It looks like he'll probably pull right back up there. Wait, is that him? I think that's him. Right there, that's the Can-Am Crackers racing car. The one of John Rizzuto's. It was trying to show him, but that's what he looks like. He is out there. He is racing. And unfortunately, it looks like he is taking some damage because he's now dropped 5 seconds back behind Gilles Moret. So I don't know if he maybe had tried to pass and something happened or whatnot, but unfortunately, whatever had attempted is not worked out, and John is dropping back. He's now 7 seconds behind, and it looks like you can see him up ahead there, driving slowly. Yep, he's crabbing down the straightaway a little bit. That is really a shame because, like I said, that was a very, very good battle, it looked like, between Gilles Moret, and they would have liked to see how that ended, but just by supposition, it looks like he's taking damage, possibly in a pass attempt, possibly getting around traffic, and possibly just pushing hard, running wide. But obviously in the pits, and hopefully not, but possibly race-ending damage.
As of right now, he could only lose one more position to anyone in his class. There are currently 9 drivers still running. So currently, he's being shown in 8th right now. If he retires the car, he will most likely finish the day in... no, he's being shown 8th. Apologies for that. He's being shown 8th. Should he have to retire the car, he will most likely finish in 9th.
Yeah, and it looks like he's about to relinquish the position to his teammate, Stephen Clark. So, unfortunate for John, but then the Can-Am Crackers team will pick up another position there, which is unfortunate because it looks like Don Hunter had retired earlier in the race, and that incident that we saw with James Cullen taking the avoiding action and doing very, very well to avoid nosing into the tires. And as I point out, James Cullen in 3rd place right now, 19 seconds behind Ricardo Machuca, and I don't know how. It looks like Mark Payne's in the pits right now, so I don't know how this is all working out, pit stops, damage, whatever, but James Cullen still holding a solid 3rd place. So there's Mark coming out of the pits. Mark Payne, the Cadillac leader right now.
So he had a pretty quick stop, but it looks like Ricardo Machuca, you can see him right there on the right side of the screen, is going to get in front, and that is for the lead with just under 20 minutes left to go in the race.
And he only spent 46 seconds in the pits, and we can see spending closer to a minute. So that was a good job. Well, there's a 42-second pit stop for that was in the 40. Sorry, that's
John Kuzma.
John Kuzma.
Yeah, I think as we get later in the race there, I mean, I'm not sure exactly how the fuel is, but the fuel is a big part of the pit stop time. So if fuel takes a long time, you only about 19 minutes left. You only need 19 minutes of fuel, which should translate into a shorter pit stop. So.
And Mark Payne is right on the back bumper as they head down the back straight. He might be close enough to try and attempt as they head into turn 8. You can see Machuca really holding the inside line. And he's going to take the inside as they go into turn 8 and force Mark to stay behind him for this lap.
Yeah, actually, one of the things I noticed during practice and from watching right now, it looks like the Cadillacs really like hugging that inside nice and early. Where in the other classes, the 4GTs and the Daytona prototypes in particular, swing wide and take a very late apex into turn 7 there. So they can set up properly for turn 8. But it looks like the Cadillacs, just the way the suspension's set up or how they roll through the corner, prefer turning in very, very early into turn 7. So this is nice. This is a battle for a lead. I assume Ricardo's made his pit stop, but and hopefully he has, because this looks fantastic. That's Luke Poulin up ahead in the dark green car there. He is not racing for position. He is currently a lap down. Or
Going to be put a lap down.
Yeah. 2 laps down, actually. We're going to be put 2 laps down. He's already a lap down.
Well, nonetheless, hopefully he will get out of the way of these two guys as they are still nose to tail as they come around for another lap. Mark Payne didn't get quite as good a run going into turn 8 as he did the last lap. And now both of these guys are going to be on Luke Poulin. You can see Machuca really going to try and get by before they head into turn 2. He's going to look good. Thought he might try and go around the outside. Not really. Oh, and there's... Oh, that is a heavy impact into turn 2. That was the fight for the lead. And that is going to take Ricardo Machuca out. And that is most likely race-ending damage.
Yeah, I was just noticing that too. It looked like Luke Poulin had taken a defensive line on the inside of the corner there and really crossed up Ricardo going through there. I'm not sure what the point of taking a defensive line is. You're letting guys through the lap, but it's unfortunately caused Ricardo to come off the inside curve there and into the wall there, because it looked like Luke basically what happened, he took a defensive line on the inside, got loose in front of the 2 leaders and caused one of the leaders to go off the track. So James Cullen will pick up that place from Ricardo eventually.
Yeah, you can see, there's heavy suspension damage. His car is crabbing quite heavily. He's not able to keep it straight, and it looks like he's just going to park it. Really, that's a smart thing to do at this point. You don't want to get in anyone's way, but yeah, you're definitely right, Brian. We saw, it looked like Ricardo was going to try and take an outside line going into turn 2 to try and get around Luke Poulin, which, it's hard in any car to do, in any of these 3 cars, to take a pass on the outside in turn 2. That's really very, very dangerous. And for Luke to pass, or for Luke to take a defensive line going into that corner and force Ricardo to go around the outside in turn 2 is really, I find that unacceptable, especially when those 2 guys were fighting for the lead.
Yeah, and this is one thing I want to clarify about that too is we always, in the multi-class racing, we kind of put an emphasis to pass, like on the passer, to get by the slower cars, and that's for multi-class. So, like say a Daytona prototype and a 4GT or a Cadillac. However, when you're racing someone that's in the same class as you and you're coming up to lap them, obviously you're a little bit quicker to be able to come into that position there. However, you don't have an advantage in top speed. You don't have an advantage in cornering speed. So you really have to be a lot more compliant when having faster guys through. And what tends to happen is you end up trying to stay ahead of them. And I'm not sure, I guess he was trying to catch Gilles Moret, who's only 8 seconds now, but it's a little closer there. It just, you end up having to push. You have guys that are obviously faster than coming through, and if you make a mistake in front of a couple faster guys, that's what happens. And it's better just to let them go, run your race, follow in behind them, and try to make your time up that way. So yeah, I mean, I got kind of confused and disappointed because that was shaping up to be a really, really good race there.
Well, I guess we can jump to another battle here with Carlos Passos. So you can just catch the back end of Timothy Stoll's Daytona prototype. Right there it is, as they head down the front straight. He is Passos is currently making up some time on Stoll in the as we wind down. We're now have 14 minutes left in the race. It's still plenty of time for Passos to make up the time between him and Stoll, and then fight for the lead. Currently, Passos is about 2.3, 2.4 seconds back behind Timothy Stoll. There's still a bit of traffic. It's definitely not as thick as it was in the start of the race. We have had quite a high attrition rate, and that's just something that we expect to have here at this circuit. But traffic could still play a part if he can, and hopefully he can use that to his advantage and catch back up to Timothy Stoll and give him a fight for second.
Yeah. So he's going past second place Cadillac man, James Cullen. Just lets him go through the inside there. And this is actually a good straightaway. This is a lot of twisty bits, obviously, but I mean, there's very good places to pass Daytona prototypes on some of the slower classes. There's a few twisty bits that makes it really hard, but just the nature of some of these cars. Even this front straight here is a really good place because you get a good run, it's straight enough, and you get to the inside, and going on the inside of turn one, both cars can get through there all right. Coming up to turn through, like we saw with the incident before, a little sketchy is, oh no, Stephen Clark has caught a little bit of the grass there and spun. Hasn't caught the wall or anything like that, so he's going to reverse a little bit and go forward, I guess. I didn't know if he really needed to reverse there, but he's back in the race. Not really battling anyone right now. He's 29 seconds behind Luke Poulin, 7th place, pretty well locked up, so he really just needs to get to the end. Actually, I think if he doesn't even get to the end, that's locked up as... Actually, I shouldn't say that, because it looks like Sean Cuthbertson is still running.
Yep, I was just about to point that out. Sean Cuthbertson has made up a spot after we saw John Rasudas retire his car, so that he is still out on circuit somewhere, turning laps and trying to make up a few places based on attrition, and he's already made up one with John Rasudas having a new tire, and now that I assume Ricardo Machuca will have to retire. That was some heavy damage on his car. And it looks like he has pulled into the pits currently, and that'll be another spot made up for Sean Cuthbertson.
One thing I'm just noticing now too here is, I didn't see it happen, I don't know where it was, but Ford GT Championship leader Chris Dameron Jr. is not in the race. He has not been in the race for quite some time. Not used to seeing him in the race anyway, because normally he's so far in the lead that the camera never, finds him. So I wasn't all that alarmed that we hadn't seen him on track yet. But just noticing Daniel Verness in the lead, Matthew Boyd second, and Kenny Colligan here. We see him now in 3rd place. That Chris Dameron Jr. is 9th place, 38 laps down. So that happened quite early on.
Yep, and the Ford GT class is fairly locked up. The closest battle being Matthew Voigt, and we're with Kenny Coughlin as we are on board right now. And the gap is about 2.5 to 3 seconds between those guys. You can just catch the next Ford GT car, but that is Tim McLeish, who is a lap down, so he's not actually fighting to get past him. So there's still a chance for there to be some Ford GT action. Looks like we're pretty much locked up in the Cadillacs, as everyone has pretty much spaced out by about 5 seconds or so. 5 or more seconds, I should say. And then it's pretty spread out in Daytona prototypes as well. Closest battle between being Timothy Stoll and Carlos Passos, as we pointed out earlier, although Timothy Stoll has managed to pull about 5 seconds on Passos, so that is turning into less and less of a battle as the timer counts down.
Alright, Daniel Verness just kind of plugging away right now, so we're going to stay with him for a little bit as he goes around track here, going down through turn 4 into turn 5. See the one light on the side of his car indicating he's the class leader.
And really, with only with under 10 minutes to go in the race, all he has to do is just really, he doesn't even have to push the car at all. He has a very, very comfortable about 51-second lead over Matthew Voigt in second. So he's really just cruising, bringing the car home for the final 9 minutes of this race.
As you can see, he's in the Sobe sponsored machine that was very similar to what Mike Kelly ran when he was in the Ford GTs earlier this year. Yeah, with 9 minutes left, just quickly go over the standings here. I know we see them ticking over the top there, but in the Daytona prototype, we have Dan Grolty with about a 15-second lead over Timothy Stahl. Carlos Passos in third place, further 7 seconds behind Stahl, with Chuck Chambliss, John Kuzlin running at the top 5, Anthony Muniz in 6th, Carl Mumbauer in 7th, the last of the running Daytona prototypes, as Mike Kelly in 8th place has retired. Then Daniel Verness, as we can see here, leading the Ford GTs by a substantial 52 seconds. That's a 52 seconds, also known as 1 Wyatt Foster, or 0.5 of Wyatt Foster, I should say. Then we got Matthew Boyd in 2nd place, like I say, 52 seconds behind. Kenny Coughlin in 3rd place, further 3.5 seconds behind, so a decent battle for 2nd place there. Marty Jeffries, as Daniel Verness is just lapping there in the SRN 47 in 4th, and Tim McLeish in the Steam Whistle in 5th place, last of the runners there. Cadillacs, Mark Payne, 18-second lead over James Cullen in 2nd. Lauren Bateman running in 3rd place, so a good run for Lauren there. Dan Morera in 4th, and Gilles Moret in 5th place. The only drivers in the lead lap. Stephen Clark running 3 laps back in the leader, 2 laps behind Gilles Moret, and 1 lap ahead of Luke Poulin. So looks like Luke Poulin's still running, and looks like Sean Cuthbertson's still running, but both those cars well down the order.
Also, since we have a slight lapse in the action, just want to take a moment to thank our sponsor, Z1 Simwheel. We mentioned them earlier in the program. They offer a LCD display box which mimics the onboard display that you can see right there in the left-hand corner of the Ford GT, Kenny Coughlin's Ford GT, but that will match any car you are currently driving in iRacing. That is the prize awarded to the Clean Driver Championship in the GTC. The way that works is if you score a 0, if you don't score any incident points, which is going off track or making contact with another car, things similar to that. If you don't have any of those incidents in a race, you score a point for the championship. And the people, just like golf, if you're a fan of watching golf, or you know at least how the scoring works, the person with actually it's not like golf, I don't know what I'm talking about. The person with so forget everything I just said about golf. We're watching racing anyway. Anyway, the person with the most points for the Clean Driver Championship wins, and the prize being the LCD display provided by Z1 Simwheel. They also make a very fine, I guess you could, they make 2 very fine sim wheels. They're very extravagant. There's a prototype version or a Formula 1 version. The prototype being you get a smaller version of the LCD screen set into the wheel, and the Formula 1 version, you have the SLI Pro. I'm not sure if you've seen that, but it basically looks like a real F1 wheel. Those are very, very nice, and if you're looking to have a more immersive experience for your sim racing, definitely check those wheels out. You can find all of the products, the wheels and the LCD displays, at z1simwheel.com.
As we're watching Dan Morera now coming through turn 2 in the 26 Cadillac. Dirt sponsored entry, I guess.
Cheap as dirt Cadillac.
Yes. I'd say I'm on board with them right now, but yeah, no, those products also, I mean, like we mentioned them before, that there is a wide range of things you can do with your simulator experience here on iRacing. I've got a basic just steering wheel and pedals mounted to a desk, which isn't ideal and not at all like a real race car would be, but it does the job. And anywhere from that to our colleague Dan Coroni here that runs the Sim Experience motion simulator rig, which is another interesting piece of kit there. But for those on a moderate budget but like to add to their sim racing experience, the Z1 Sim Wheel is definitely allows. There's a lot of options you can do with these cars with regards to depending what car you run, fuel adjustments, brake bias, and pretty much all cars, suspension differential changes in the Formula One car, various things like that, and the LCD display. I believe they have a touchscreen model as well, and there's a lot of interesting products done through Z1 SimWheel, so go check them out.
Also, just quickly, if you are interested in the great racing that we've seen here today and you want to get in on that action, go to ISRAleague.com, and there at that website you can find out more information about our league as a whole. You can read up about the different series. We have, I think, about 5 or 6 series now. We have multi-class road racing. We have the STC, which I believe is it currently multi-class? I forget. They do basically they'll switch between single class and they've done multi-class before, but slower cars than you would see in the GTC. There's also a couple oval series that run. I believe they run the truck and I forget which oval car it is, and also the Grand Prix Championship, which is currently in its inaugural season, which runs the Formula One car. There is a Drivers' Championship and a Team Championship too, so that is something that is unique among the league. So go ahead and again head to ISRAleague.com for more information on those racing series.
And now we go back to the Daniel Verness show. 58-second lead now over Matthew Voigt, and 2 minutes and 40 seconds left, so he just needs to just keep her going here, and he's got that class win, but lots of stuff can still happen. It's still a very difficult track, so nothing is guaranteed.
Yep. The battle a little bit closer in the Cadillacs. Currently Mark Payne still in the lead, but James Cullen has a much smaller gap. Actually, he could just barely catch Mark Payne there in the Inside Sim Racing.tv Cadillac. The gap between Mark Payne and James Cullen about 18 seconds, give or take. So a little bit closer there, but with only 2 minutes left, unless there is a severe problem with Mark Payne's race, that isn't going to be made up.
And by the time anyone sees this race, we will have completed our second to last race in GTC, so it's a great time if you're interested in joining to head over. We'll do probably a couple preseason races as we usually do, and then get going with season 8 of GTC in 3 weeks from now or so, maybe 4.
Yeah, and the preseason races are a great way to kind of get your feet wet, especially if you're new to the series. You'll be, I believe, the cars aren't for sure picked, but it looks like it's going to be the Daytona prototype be brought back, and the Cadillac. As we can see, the white flag has just been shown, so there's going to be one more time around for these guys. But yeah, it looks like it's going to be a two-class race or two-class series run in the GTC next season, so it'll be a little bit different than what you're seeing now. We're going to be taking out the middle class, but the preseason races are a great way to get your feet wet, kind of get some early testing done, and kind of get at least a baseline set up for your car going into the inaugural race. I believe we're going to be starting with 2 hours a spot, as we have for the past few seasons, which is always a lot of fun. So go ahead, yeah, like Dan said, by the time you see this race, go ahead and head over to the website if you are interested in signing up, because we're going to be getting the next season underway very soon.
I basically just want to look for us coming out on Sunday nights is when we typically have our practices, but join the website, join the forums, and I'll give you all those details here. As Dan Gralty is where the white flag was triggered for. He was the one that triggered that white flag last lap, so when Dan Gralty, the leader of the Daytona Prototypes, comes across the line next, that will be the end of checkers will come out, and anyone following him will be race done for them. But looking around the track, hold on a second here. Looks like oh no, never mind. Looks like Matthew Voigt just got lapped, so I thought he was a little closer to Daniel Verness.
We didn't see him cross the line, but Daniel Gralty has won.
And just looking, looks like Mark Payne is one as well, because it looks like James Cullen, or well, maybe not. We'll see. Just wait for the leaders to come across the line. just the way the scoring works, Tim Stahl finishing there. Until the leader of each class crosses the line, we don't get to see who's second, third, or fourth, even though they may have already finished the race. So, Carlos Passo is picking up his first podium of the season as well. So there's Lauren Bateman just crossing the line in third place, Emmer in fourth, but because Mark Payne has not come across the line, we do not have his results yet. And Kenny Coughlin coming across in third place. You can see by the lights on the side of his car. However, since Daniel Verness is not crossing, here he comes. Daniel Verness comes across to take the checkered flag for the Ford GTs. And Mark Payne just behind him. Should be crossing the line now. There he is. Mark Payne wins the Cadillac Series. So winners, Daniel Gralti in the GTs. Actually, sorry, Dan, go ahead with the championship.
Alright, well, Colin McLean managed to pick up a couple points in this race, although I think the 110 is showing from a different race that he dropped. Brian Carey is 14 points behind, but Chuck Chambliss sneaking right up just 1 point behind him, looking for a battle for second. In Ford GT, we have Chris Dameron Jr. still bleeding big time, despite this DNF. Marty Jeffries is pretty far behind, but then look at that, Kenny Coughlin battling for second, and Mike Keller will not be in that battle anymore. And finally, in Cadillacs, James Cullen with 110 points. Ricardo Machuca, so he's unseated. So James Cullen taking first in the championship right now, but I'm sure that has an opportunity to change. Looking at third and fourth, there's a good battle between Mark Payne and Lauren Bateman.
I just want to say personally, this is a fantastic track. Schedule here. Sorry, we just finished Mosport, Road America, and Twin Ring Motegi have already been run, so we'll get to those shortly. Mid Ohio Sports Car Course is coming up tomorrow, which is July 9th, probably today by the time you guys see this. And then Suzuka will round out this schedule on July 16th. So that should be a fantastic track. I've never run there in one of these cars before, and it's always a great track in any car. But yeah, I was just saying that it's a fantastic track, a lot of fun to run. I'm sorry I wasn't able to finish it there. I had a spin coming out of the hairpin and coming there, like Anthony said. If you want to check out YouTube, you might be able to find the crash. But basically, went over a curb, nose dug into the ground, and I did a front flip onto my roof.
Wow, that's impressive. I've never seen that happen before.
No, neither did I. And actually, it's funny because I know it very similar to the crash Oriol Servia had at Laguna Seca in the Champ cars back in, I believe, 2001. Very scary accident there, and because it happens in real life, because his nose dug in and he went flying up into the air. But also to a Barber Motorsports Park in the actual Grand Am Series. Car didn't flip, but going down into the 789 complex, driver got off track and basically just nosed into the ground and stuck into the ground like a lawn dart.
Yeah, that was a short stop that he had in that race.
Anyways, any final thoughts before we sign this one off?
Well, a whole lot of retirements, and I think, particularly if you looked at the comments after the race, people found it very difficult here, especially with the multi-class competition going on. Would have liked to see a couple more people finish, but those who did, for a good time, there were some good battles.
Yeah, and especially in the especially we saw some intense multi-class racing earlier, or very early in the race, when the Daytona prototypes were making their first lap past the slower GT cars. I mean, there was some very, very crazy diving and dicing between those guys, and it really made for some crazy good entertainment. We saw some good battles develop, and we saw some guys have issues throughout the race. But overall, I think we were really had a good showing by a lot of these drivers. It did get a little dull at the end, but that's just because the nature of the track has caused so many retirements. But overall, I think we had a great time, and really looking forward to the next one. It should be good for these guys.
Alright, well, thank you all for watching, and as always, thank you to Z1 Simwheel for their sponsorship, and ISRA League, and the admins, and the people who race here for making it all possible. we will see you again. We've got 2 races left. Well, I shouldn't say that. From the video's perspective, we've got four races left until the end of the season, and I think it's going to be an exciting finish. Have a good night.